William Patterson University. Anyone wanting to offer differing opinions may do so by calling the show at 973-720-2738. Abusive callers will be rejected. Now here's your program on WP 88.7 FM Brave New Radio.
Well, good morning, good morning. Good morning to you. And if you can hear the sound of my voice right now, then you know you are up and ready and listening to another edition of The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley, right here on WP 88.7 FM and streamed around the world on GoBrave.org. Everything's in place. My guest is in place. I have my selected readings for the morning ready to go. I'll be introducing my guests as well as letting you know the weather, not necessarily in that order, but we're going to do all of that, and our interview will be underway shortly. So I ask you, and I just put it on Hootsuite, which went out to all my social media sites, and I tell you all the time, tweet somebody, text somebody, Facebook somebody, LinkedIn somebody, Pinterest somebody, Google Plus somebody, whatever social media networks you're on, get on there and share the word that they need to tune in to GoBrave.org right now, because we're going to have an inspirational interview this morning. And I tell you, before I even kick off, as you all know, I'm the first show of the morning here at WP 88.7 FM on Saturday mornings, and they make me feel real special. I have to have a police escort come into the building because I can't come into the building on my own, so the police escort me in. And this morning I had Officer Barty. He escorted me in, and we were talking about how quickly time is flying. And Officer Barty reminded me that in 2009, he was escorting me in, and he shared with me how he had just gotten engaged. And as we talked, I said, well, I tell you what, give me your fiance's name, and I'll shout the two of you out on the show. And he reminded me that was in 2009, 5 years ago. So he's been married now 5 years. Congratulations to Officer and Mrs. Barty as they've celebrated 5 years. And I'm going to shout them out again here. Both Officer Barty and his now wife. At that time it was his fiance, now it is his wife. But they are, and I know police officers have been taking an extremely bad rap around the country and sometimes maybe even around the world. But the truth of the matter is, every police officer is not bad. It's just like any other industry, any other group of industrialists, any other group of jobs, on the job, any group of employees. You have some bad apples in every industry. So for everybody to paint this broad brush that every police officer is brutal and so forth and so on, it's just not true. Because I have many friends who are police officers, and I work with the police all the time in my line of work. And as I said, each Saturday morning, the police are the ones who let me into the studio in order for me to do the show. So big shout outs to Officer Barty and his wife. May you have many, many, many more years. He's at 5 years. They had their 5th anniversary in September. And now they're continuing on. I guess they're heading into year 6 now. So next September will be 6 years. So we wish you nothing else but positivity and blessings. All right, so big shout outs to you, Officer Barty. We're underway. I'm going to go ahead and share with our folks here the weather, as I always do. I'm going to read from our 2 books, What Can Happen When We Pray and Until Today. And then I will introduce my guest, and our interview will be on and popping, as the kids can say. I want to give us the forecast real quick. Today, expect a high of 51, a low of 35. Expect it to be rainy today. Again, high of 51, low of 35. And then on tomorrow, Sunday, high of 40, low of 26, mostly sunny and windy. 0% chance of rain. It's 90% chance of rain today. Monday, 39 degrees as a high, 37 as a low, mostly cloudy, 20% chance of rain. And then on Tuesday, 49 degrees as a high, 37 degrees as a low. Expect rain, 100% chance of rain on Wednesday. I guess they're kind of sure on that one. On Tuesday, excuse me. I guess they're kind of sure on that one. 100% chance of rain, because it's rare that you get 100% of anything, but they have 100% chance of rain on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, December the 10th, 44 degrees as a high, 33 degrees as a low. 40% chance of rain with showers. Well, that takes care of the weather right here from the WP 88.7 FM Weather Center. If you've been listening to the show for any amount of time, you know I kick the show off reading from two books that just creates a positive flow for the rest of the morning. And I've been doing that for many of the years I've been on the show, and it is like a little ritual that works for me and keeps things moving positively. So I am going to go ahead and do that right now and read from those two books from the book What Can Happen When We Pray for today, December the 6th. Intentionally dark and elusive light. Today's prayer: God of day and night, ruler of joy and sorrow, I exalt you as King. I celebrate your power. I extol your glory. I celebrate your sovereignty. I am grateful to be called one of your children. I am awed by your commitment to me and the generations that will follow. Amen. Today's reflection: when horrible things happen to decent people and good things happen to horrible people, we are often quick to accuse the devil or question God. We rather easily behave as if God is not ultimately in control of the happenings on earth and as if Satan has unlimited rule. However, the biblical texts remind us that God is creator of everything and is aware of the good and the bad, the light and the dark. God is Lord of everything and allows all according to God's perfect pleasure and plan. That's from the book What Can Happen When We Pray. From the book Until Today by Iyanla Vanzant. For December the 6th, Iyanla says, I will know peace when I accept and acknowledge the truth. Some people sleep around with many other people regardless of the physical and emotional risks involved. Others drink alcohol or ingest chemical substances to their own detriment. There are people who are very fond of taking things that do not belong to them. Some people lie just for the fun of it. Others because they cannot seem to stop themselves. People do any number of things that are harmful, mean, or self-destructive. Usually we do these things when we forget the truth of who we are. The truth is that we are all messiahs of one sort or another. According to Webster, a messiah is the leader of some hope or cause. When you are living the truth, you offer others hope. And that's perfect for this morning, because that's what we're going to be talking about with my guests in terms of offering others hope based on the story that we're going to listen to. When you are living the truth, you cause other people to realize the truth about themselves. When people see the glory, the grace, the peace of your life, they are inspired. There is nothing that you can ever do to erase the truth about who you are. One day, when you least expect it, or when you ask for it, one kernel of living truth buried somewhere in your being will be awakened. On that day, which could be today, all of your false beliefs and harsh judgments will vanish. All reluctance will disappear, and your greatest detriment will become the divine core of your life's ministry. Let today be that day. Until today, you may have been engaged in self-destructive behavior to support the reluctance you feel about being a chosen one. Just for today, activate the truth in your consciousness. Accept the fact that you are important. Acknowledge the fact that you have been chosen to lead others out of fear-based, unproductive lifestyles. Let your life and your determination inspire others to live the truth of their being. Today I am devoted to living my life as a ministry to inspire others. And I've told you all over and over again how many times the reading from the book that has absolutely no other than the fact that the date in the book is the date of the show, because there's no years associated with the devotional. It's a perpetual, so that means you can read it year after year after year, and the only thing it has on it is a date. So each Saturday morning that I come to you, I read from whatever the date is, and there are more times than not whatever is in that devotional lines up with what the interview is about. And that last one that I just read from Iyanla Van Zant lines up squarely with what we're going to be talking about this morning on the Reading Circle. As I said, my guest is here. I'm going to get him introduced. There's a brief introduction, but I'm going to let him introduce himself a little bit more. But I'm reading here, Antonio Webb, MD, that's medical doctor, is an orthopedic surgeon, resident, and motivational speaker who has a passion for helping others. He is also the author of Overcoming the Odds, From War on the Streets of Louisiana to the War of Terrorism in Iraq. How I Successfully Overcame the Odds. One of the most rewarding activities is serving as a mentor for underprivileged middle and high school students interested in a career in medicine. He volunteers to help because he says it is important for students to know if I can do it, they can too. Webb says his proudest moment would be when he encounters a student in later years who says, I am in medical school because of you. Dr. Antonio Webb, welcome to the Reading Circle with Marc Medley.
Yeah, thank you so much, and good morning to everyone.
I am thrilled because, again, this is an inspirational story, as we were just talking here as I was reading from the Iyanla Van Zant book in terms of inspiring others. And certainly, just from reading the little blurb there about your book and about you, I'm expecting that this will inspire someone. Matter of fact, just the title alone, Overcoming the Odds, From War on the Streets of Louisiana to the War of Terrorism in Iraq, and how you overcame them. So we're going to take a brief information sharing time where I'm going to share information with the listening audience, and then we're going to get underway with our interview. So listening audience, you know the drill. That's why I stopped saying we're taking a break, because it's not a break. I'm still here. You're still there. I need you to take this time out to let somebody know that Dr. Antonio Webb is on the air with me, and this is an interview you will not want to mix. So I'll tell you what, get on your computers or your cell phones and go at it.
This year, firefighters like Fire Chief James Hall will battle wildfires around the country in hopes of containing them. But firefighters can't do it alone.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile, where it can ignite and destroy your home and community.
Get fire adapted. Learn simple steps you can take now to reduce wildfire damage later at fireadapted.org. A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council. Learn more at fireadapted.org.
I started going cold turkey. Well, at least when I'm in the car.
I know I shouldn't do it, but it's so hard to stop. That's why I hide it from myself, so I won't be tempted.
I used to do it all the time. I stopped by locking it in my glove compartment.
My friend used to do it way too much. Now I turn it off when we're in the car.
My solution is simple. I just don't do it.
There are lots of ways to stop yourself and others from texting and driving. How will you stop? Tell us at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Reading Circle with Marc Medley on Brave New Radio.
Yes, indeed. You're listening to the Reading Circle with Marc Medley here on Brave New Radio. We're on gobrave.org around the world and WP 88.7 FM locally. My guest this morning is Dr. Antonio Webb. He is an orthopedic surgeon. So, Dr. Webb, I tell you what, let's roll the tape back all the way to the beginning, back to when you were in elementary and grade school, and we're going to work our way on up to that, and then you becoming an author. So let's talk a little bit about whenever you were a child. I mean, were you one that wanted to be a doctor always? Because I know as kids they always ask us, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And most of us say doctor, lawyer, teacher. Kind of like the cliche type things. Were you one of those, or did that decision come later in life?
I think it actually came around high school. I did a medical magnet program in Shreveport, Louisiana, where we were exposed to medicine and different careers in medicine. And it was at that point I decided to, try to stay out of trouble and get into the books, and I wanted to become a doctor, and vowed to myself that I would try to do everything as possible to make that happen. So that was around high school or so.
So now when we say Louisiana, are we talking New Orleans or anywhere near New Orleans?
Shreveport, Louisiana is north of New Orleans.
Were you there when Katrina hit?
I was actually in the military already. I joined the military at age 17 in 2001, and I was actually just had finished my basic training and my training for being a medic in the military, and I was at home. Actually, I was in Louisiana when I heard the news. But
what branch of the military were you in?
I was in the Air Force.
All right, now, so was I. Oh, that's why I asked.
Yeah, I was in the Air Force for 8 years.
That's why I asked. So that, let's see. You did officer training, or did you do?
No, I was enlisted actually. And I went to school at nighttime, weekend, internet courses, and it took me about 6.5, 7 years to get my degree.
Okay, I was enlisted. So you came through Lackland.
Yep.
All right, then we definitely had that common experience. San Antonio, Texas, Lackland, yes.
Yeah, everybody knows Lackland Air Force Base.
Yes, I was Flight 268.
Okay. Yeah, I was Flight 234.
All right, now. Oh, wow. I think I was 1308 BMTS Flight 268. There was some good days, though. I remember well. I was actually a jet engine mechanic. That's what I did in the Air Force for the time that I was in there. So, all right, so around high school, you got, what sparked your interest in medicine?
I think just being around my father had to partially do with that. Growing up, we didn't have much growing up, but I always saw that my father was trying to help other people as much as he could. He's a minister. He came from a rough background, went to prison when he was younger. So a lot of times on Saturday mornings, we would go around and we would minister to the people of Shreveport and we would hand out food. And I really never could understand why we were doing that, but it kind of ingrained a helping and giving mentality that even to this day, I just love helping people, inspiring people is one of my favorite things to do. So I think medicine fits very well with that.
Now, needless to say, with everything going on around the country, and now I'm talking and looking at him because I'm looking at the webpage here of an African-American male who is a doctor. And where I'm going with this is because I'm an African-American male who's done and been many places, done many things, and is a school principal. And where I'm going and what I'm trying to say is Antonio and I are not the exception to the rule. There are millions of African-American males who are doing what they ought to be doing, striving to succeed, striving to move ahead, and yet we're not the ones that's heard about in the news. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of folks doing the wrong thing. There are. But at the same time, there's a whole lot of folks doing the right thing, and that's one of the things that excited me so much whenever Antonio got in touch with me on LinkedIn. I tell you all, social media is great. We hooked up on LinkedIn, and that's when we set up the interview for this morning. But I am so proud to be sitting here looking at this young man in a doctor suit, and it says Orthopedic Surgery on there. How did you get into what made you decide to go into orthopedics?
I guess when I was younger, I always loved working with my hands. Like I used to tear things apart and try to put it back together. And I went to medical school at Georgetown in D.C. I just fell in love with surgery, and I absolutely love it. Just, being able to help someone and get immediate gratification, putting things back together, the bones. I can't think of anything else in the world I would rather be doing than that.
See, your last line in there is, if I can do it, they can too. Because that's what I tell people all the time. That's what drives me. If a young man from Paterson, New Jersey, the third largest city in the state of New Jersey that no one ever has anything good to say about, can do all the things that I've been able to do and blessed to do, and the same thing like you're saying here, certainly there are others can do that too. And that's kind of like our mission, is to help others understand it. So the questions I'm going to be asking you, or I am asking you, is to help folks really kind of understand how you got to where you are. And you're saying, because see, that same thing of, when we say we didn't have much, that don't mean we didn't have anything, but comparatively speaking to some other folks, we did not have as much. And for me, Antonio, as a kid, I didn't even know we didn't have much. I didn't even know it because my parents were good. Right. My parents were real good. They were good at smoke and mirrors. We didn't even know we didn't have it. Compared to my other little mates that I played with, we had a lot. Yeah. And but then whenever I compared it now, when I got out into the larger world of what folks had, it's like, wow, we did all that with that. And but the message is to help other people know that regardless of where you start, and that's why I'm assuming, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. That's why you titled the book "Overcoming the Odds."
Yeah, and exactly. And one of the things I try to stress in my book and talk about a lot is failures, because everyone's going to be faced with a failure in life. You're going to be faced with lots of different obstacles. I think what matters the most is what you do with each situation and circumstance. Every obstacle that I've ever faced in life, I try to take something from that and say, what can I use from this, turn it into a positive instead of looking at it as a negative. And I think if you approach life that way, when you're faced with these obstacles, you'll be successful and you'll learn a lot more you can apply it in the future.
So let's go back to the education. Like when you were describing your education again, say that again. What was your education track? I'm talking about prior to college.
Yeah, so I went to the medical magnet program in high school. I actually left high school in midway because our school was on a quarter system, so I was able to leave early. And I went to boot camp, and I came back and walked with my graduating class in my military uniform. Then I went 8 years in the military, and while on active duty, I went to school at nighttime, went to school at weekend, on internet courses. I went to 5 different schools.
Okay, so pause right there, because I want folks in the listening audience to hear this and hear this well. Did you hear the strides that Dr. Webb was taking? Because the other thing I want to get folks to understand is to get to where we are, it's not sitting around watching TV, flipping the remote. To get to where we are is not somewhere shooting the breeze on the corner. To get to where we are, where we've been blessed to be, is through work. Because you have to put the time in. You have to do your homework. You just heard him say he left high school early, went into the military, came back, walked with his class. Then as he was in the military, now started studying courses online, started studying here, started going to school here as he's working his way to med school. So I need those of you parents, you must instill in your children this sense of discipline, this sense of responsibility, this sense of work. As my wife can call it, this slackness and this laziness and all that has to go. And unfortunately, the slackness and the laziness is what's getting us into a lot of trouble with the police out there on the street. But I wanted folks to kind of to repeat what he said in terms of the schooling. And then once you did all that, you had to apply to medical school.
Yep, I actually had to apply to medical school 3 times before I got accepted. I got rejected, my first couple times around. Was faced with, more failures, but I had to. That was very hurtful, so I had to get back to the drawing board anyway and work a little bit harder, and that's exactly what I did.
So that's another important message, and that sounds like the premise of your book is that even in spite of failures, you still keep going.
Yeah, exactly. One of my favorite quotes is, failure is not in the falling down. It's in the failure to get back up and try again. So that I've used it pretty much my entire life and try to apply that to my daily life.
And many people, the fact that they fail, that takes them out. For some people, the first failure knocks them out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you fall 7 times, you get back up 8.
Exactly. Yeah. But for some, that first failure or whatever it is, because the truth of the matter is, you're right. Everybody fails. I mean, failure is kind of like the steps or the ladder steps or the building blocks of getting to wherever success is. There's no one that just is born an automatic success.
Yeah, and exactly. Even to this day, as an orthopedic surgeon, I'm still faced with failures. I throughout the day in surgery, if I have a bad day, I go home and try to review and try to learn a little bit more and study a little bit harder. So.
Now, when you say in surgery a bad day, what is kind of like a bad day in surgery?
When things don't go as predicted, right. You may plan for a 2-hour surgery. It may take 4 hours, 5 hours. Mm-hmm. It's very unpredictable. The anatomy, which is somewhat predictable, it varies by person to person, but you may run into a complication or a patient may bleed. So a lot of things can go wrong. So it's from a team effort from the start to the finish. So something goes along the way. We describe it as an orchestra.
It is. I mean, it is. It really is, because everybody's working together. Everybody's passing instruments. Everybody's doing their part. And I take my hat off, because first off, you got to have extremely steady hands.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say, folks, extreme steady hands, I mean surgeons have to have extremely steady. Like they can't be wavering in there because one touch left, one touch right could throw something totally out of whack in someone else's body. So, I mean, extremely steady hands. If you've just joined us, my guest that I'm speaking with is Dr. Antonio Webb. And when I say doctor, I'm not, because I know, Dr. Webb, unfortunately and sadly, too many people have watered down the title doctor. Whereas that's even how we approach each other sometime in the street. Hey, doctor, what's going on? Hey, doctor, what's going on? And everybody's a doctor. I mean, now we got these like online doctorates, which I'm not knocking. For those that do your online, I'm not knocking that. And then we have the honorary doctors and also so I mean, everybody's a doctor. But what I'm saying here is this doctor is a real doctor. He's a medical doctor. He's a surgeon, not just one that we call doc out in the street. So that's who I'm talking to this morning is Dr. Antonio Webb, MD, Orthopedic Surgeon. And let somebody know that he is on the air with me because we are sharing a story that in this day and time, given that we've heard so much about the Michael Browns and the Eric Garners and the police and the other young little boy over in Cleveland and all these African-American males who are getting gunned down by police officers for whichever reason, whether their behavior contributed to it or whether the police officer was overly brutal. This morning is a positive story because I have an African-American male who is an orthopedic surgeon, and you all need to let someone know that Dr. Webb is on the air with me.
Yeah. Salad on Saturday, fruit on Friday, bubble on Thursday. Water Wednesday, touch your toes Tuesday. Let's move Monday, sparkles next Sunday.
60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. So keep them active and eating well every day. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov. A message from USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
There are many reasons and many people who need prescription medications. These same drugs that ease suffering for some are abused by others. When abused, these drugs can have some really scary side effects and even cause death. Prescription drug abuse among college students is a growing trend, which often includes combining prescription drugs, like opiates, with alcohol and other substances. The non-medical use of prescription medications is a close second only to marijuana as the most common form of illicit drug use. Combining alcohol and opiates enhances the sedative effects of these drugs, increasing the risk of death from overdose. Prescribed does not mean safe. Don't share. Use correctly, store securely, dispose responsibly. To learn more about the use and abuse of prescription medications, contact Marianne Edmond, health educator at edmondm1@wpu.edu. If you think you have a problem with prescription medications and need to talk, contact the Counseling Center at 2257. This message was made possible through a grant from the New Jersey Department of Human Services, Division of Addiction Services.
The Reading Circle on WP 88.7 FM.
Yes, indeed. It is the Reading Circle. And if you've just joined us, if you caught us midstream, you're probably wondering, well, if it's the Reading Circle, why does he have a medical doctor on there? I'm glad you asked because I'm going to answer your question. Dr. Webb is on the air with me this morning because he has written a book. And the book is Overcoming the Odds: From War on the Streets of Louisiana to the War of Terrorism in Iraq. Talk to me a little bit about why you're comparing or your choice in words, because I'm in, for the most part, for lack of a better word, an English major or a communications major in one of my degrees, and I love play on words. So I'm looking at from war on the streets of Louisiana to the war of terrorism in Iraq. Why did you kind of use that comparatively? Or talk to me a little bit about what you're considering the war on the streets, and then talk to me a little bit about the war of terrorism in Iraq.
Yeah, so the reason why I chose that title is because it kind of speaks on two aspects of my life. From the beginning, when I first grew up in Louisiana, and till the point where I made it to Iraq and was faced with being a combat medic in Iraq. So from Louisiana, when I say the war on the streets of Louisiana, that means the daily struggles that I saw and being around a lot of drugs, a lot of gangs, a lot of violence. And I had to, eventually I had to stay off of the streets and get into the books. And that was definitely a struggle. That was definitely a challenge growing up. So I wanted to speak on that aspect of my life. And then going into the military and finding out that I had to go to Iraq in 2005. I was just a young trooper. I think I was 20 years old at that time. So it was definitely a challenge trying to just to stay alive. I was out in Balad, which is north of Baghdad, and we got shot at maybe 4 to 5 times per day. Actually, the name of the place we were at is called Mortarville because we got attacked so much. It's actually the most attacked base in Iraq at that time. So I wanted to speak on those two from that transition, and I think that kind of encompasses the majority of my book.
Well, I'm sitting here, and like I said, I have those of you who've never been in a radio studio. We're surrounded by all kinds of equipment. We have the board, we have computers, and so forth, and so on. And I'm sitting here on one of my computers. I have Antonio's webpage, and as he's talking, I'm sitting here looking at him. He has on. I'm going to describe it for you because I know this is radio and not TV. He has on a light blue, the surgeon's hat. He has on his Antonio J. Webb, MD, Orthopedic Surgeon, white coat, and of course the words around it. And then I see his book that has the same picture on it, Overcoming the Odds. And I cannot express for you in words the level of pride that I'm feeling from just looking at that. Because we constantly hear the negativity, and then I'm hearing a young man, and Antonio, like I said, I'm a principal, so I deal with students every day. My school is a grade 1 to grade 8, and many of my children, if not all of my children, are going through the war of the streets of Patterson.
Yeah, exactly.
The same way you're talking about the war in this. That's why one other reason why I asked the question, because they're on the war on the streets of Patterson. Many of my kids come through the drug dealers, the prostitutes, the domestic violence, the this, that, and the other, just on their way to school.
Yeah.
Just like but between leaving the home in the morning and getting to the school, they've already passed spots that people have been murdered. They've passed spots where the drug dealer is sitting there selling and handing off into the car. They're passing spots where the prostitute has just walked down and met a John. So that is no question the war on the streets. And yet some of them are going to be the next Dr. Antonio Webb. And that to me is kind of like why I stay in the game to begin with, because I know somewhere in there's an Antonio Webb. Talk to me a little bit about, because you touched on Iraq. Talk a little bit about what that was like for you to now come from, in high school here in the U.S. and now you're shipped over to Iraq. What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was like I said, I was very young. I think I was about 20 years old during that time, and it was definitely a challenge because I got to Iraq and we started getting shot at. I just looked at myself. I was like, "What am I doing here? I can't believe I'm here." Actually, 2 days into the country, they actually shot a missile and it went right over my head and hit the ground, maybe like 10 feet from me. But luckily, it didn't explode because it was a dud, which means it didn't go off. It just hit the ground.
Right.
I think I would not be here today if that missile would have went off. It was a day-to-day, challenge to try to stay alive and try to do my job at the same time, taking fire. So, just grateful to be alive coming from that.
Well, you said your father was a pastor or a minister, preacher, yeah. Whichever terminology we use, then you full well know then God has a plan for your life. That's why you're still here.
Yeah, exactly. Every day I'm just very grateful just to make it out of Louisiana and also make it out of Iraq. I give thanks to God for that every day.
Talk to me a little bit about in terms, I'm just sitting here like just blown away. Just, I am like, you're younger, probably way younger than I am, but I'm just like honored to be speaking with you because you're a success story to this point in terms of, and as you said, you didn't just become a success. That was like failures in the making and motion and everything else. We hear a lot today in this country about race.
Yeah.
Has race played a part one way or the other in doing what you do?
Less than 4% of the physicians in the U.S. are African American, so it's I'm actually one of the only black orthopedic surgeons in my department. So, every day people think you're inferior or you may have to work a little bit harder. than everyone else just to stay afloat. So that's what I do. I try to work extremely hard, work harder than the person next to me, just to say that, let those individuals know that I'm here for a reason, and I can, just achieve success just like you can. So
no question, no, and I'm so glad you said that because, I mean, really, we everyone needs to understand, and this is why, Dr. Webb, I never kind of understood the whole, and I do understand it. I do understand the underpinnings of it. It's all about power. I really do understand that whole. That's what racism is all about. It's all about power. But this whole thing of your skin color determines what your ability level is, to me, has always been the craziest notion. So that's why I know, that was just used as a power thing. Like, okay, my color is this color, your color is that color. I'm going to use that over you. I have the majority of this color, and is the minority of the color is you. So therefore, we're going to lord that over you. But at the same time, it's this constant letting everyone know I'm just as good, if not better.
Yep.
And sometimes that's a hard time. And don't mind me because I'm very frank, because people are teasing me because they say the older you get, the less filter you have. And I'm all right with that. But the truth of the matter is that's a hard sell even within our community. We'll have black folks that turn around and not come to us because we black and think white is better.
Yeah. And, it's a constant struggle at Georgetown, very prestigious school. And you walk down the hallways of the hospital and people looking at you and wondering why you're there. So I always made it a point in medical school to work harder than the person next to me. So they read a chapter one time, I read that same chapter 3 times.
And see, that's crazy because they're wondering why you're there, but they're not wondering why the black basketball players are there.
Yeah, exactly true. Welcome them in. Come on in. And
it's because when you say Georgetown, I think back to Patrick Ewing and so forth and so on, going back in those days. But I mean, again, the point is, here you are coming in there. I'm African American, intelligent, articulate, bright, coming to be a doctor, and folks are questioning, well, why is he here? But they don't question why all those folks are down there playing basketball for Georgetown. See, I got an issue with that. Yeah. I really do. And the other thing you threw out was that percentage of like 4%.
Yeah, 4%. It's about 3.5, 4%.
You see, not even 4. 3. We start getting to the point.
Yeah.
And it really,
the AAMC website.
Right, and I believe it because I remember when my kids were younger, I searched high and low for an African American pediatrician. And it was like an impossible task. There was none in my area at that time.
Wow.
I could not find an African American pediatrician because my thing is this. I really am not prejudiced per se because, and I've shared this on the show before as well. There's a difference between races and prejudice. Everybody's prejudiced one way or the other. You have your likes and your dislikes. That's what prejudice is all about. But when you get into racism, that's where the power piece comes. So for me, because I am very supportive of who we are, and I know we're just as good, if not better than anybody else, I always give the first opportunity to someone who looks like me. And I always explain to them in great detail, the expectation is you will be just as good, if not better. Because the other side of that is we don't need somebody always expecting a break, a handout, shucking and jiving. Well, because you look like me, you're going to give me a break. I won't have to pay as much, bruh, because you look like me. Or it's like it's this double-edged thing because you got the worker. You have many of our African workers that think, well, because you're black just like me, I can take advantage of you. I get the work done when I get it done. If it's a contractor, all right, bruh, I see you. No. I expect you to be able to take care of business like anyone else. So that's always my expectation when I deal with anybody. White, black, Chinese, doesn't matter. African, Spanish, doesn't matter. My expectation is I got a job to do, and I'm choosing you because I think you're the best person to do it. So if I'm coming to Dr. Webb as the orthopedic surgeon, I'm coming to you because I'm expecting the best.
Exactly. Yeah. And I treat everyone the same. That was actually a challenge in Iraq. We had to take care of all the prisoners, and they would be in our tent hospital. We worked out of tents right next to an American soldier they just shot. So I think that was a little bit challenging. I didn't really understand why we were doing that when I was so young, but you have to treat everyone the same.
No question. I mean, and interesting enough, in the military, you're right. Particularly if you're MP guarding the prison. And if you're in the medical field, where again you catch your your enemy, and you still have to treat them humanely, because at the end of the day, they're humans too, even though they're your enemy.
Yeah.
So, all right, again, audience, this is your time. I'm getting ready to share some information with you. We have a bunch of different shows here at WP 88.7 FM, and we're eclectic up here, meaning that just about any taste that you have for a show, if you know our schedule. So for those of you who like talk, and you know I'm on Saturday mornings at 6, you can catch talk. Then we have rock, we have blues, we have jazz, we have old school, we have hip hop. We have a little bit of it all here on WP 88.7 FM. So I'm going to share with you a couple of folks that have their shows on here. But while I'm doing that, please make sure you let somebody know that Dr. Antonio Webb is on the air with me.
They thought they could stop me. They thought they could hold me down. But boy, did they think wrong. Cause I'm here. And now that I'm here, I'ma keep giving y'all the illest mix you've ever heard. From executive producer Diamonds comes the illest show on radio. Starring multi-award winner Diamonds. Every Saturday from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Brave New Radio. Club Melting Pot. Only on WP 88.7 FM.
Hi, my name is Stan Myers, and I'm here at FM 88.7. I do a jazz show called Just a Mood. And if you like the music, anything from Louis to Lester Bowie, I'm your man. At Sunday afternoons, 3 to 6. Looking to hear from you, okay?
You're listening to The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley. My guest this morning is Dr. Antonio Webb, and I don't ask anybody to do anything that I would not be willing to do myself, and I'm saying that because while I was sharing the show information with you, I was once again on Hootsuite, sending out to all my social media sites that if they want to hear an inspiring interview, they need to tune in now to gobrave.org wherever they are in the world, and if they happen to be in the northern New Jersey area, they can tune in on WP 88.7 FM. So, Dr. Webb, as you now go around to the various schools and you talk to kids, and what is their reaction to you whenever you come out and you start telling your story?
Quite surprising, actually. Most people look at me, they wouldn't assume that I'm a physician. But I think what's most shocking is when I give my presentation and I go through the various careers and the jobs that I've had throughout the medical field, and I give a little bit of salary at the end of that. And then I come upon orthopedic surgery, and I say that the average one makes around $450,000-$500,000 a year. Their eyes get really big, but I do that for a reason. Even though they may look at that number and like, wow, I want to do that, I want to make that much. But you have to be willing to put in the work, a lot of work. So it's something to inspire them and motivate them to work harder in school and study hard.
When you go, do you put on the outfit that I see on the webpage, the doctor coat and the hat and everything, or do you just kind of come in casual or in a suit or what have you?
It just depends on whether I'm in clinic or whether I'm in operating room, but I really don't like wearing that white coat. Yeah, I just wear regular scrubs around the hospital, and when I go into my patient's room, they may think I'm the nurse. They say, "Send my doctor in." I say, "I am your doctor today."
Now I'm wondering.
Yeah, they may think I'm the housekeeper or bringing their food to them. Yeah, so I get it. Get it all.
I'm laughing because I've had that experience as principal. They thought I was a security guard.
Yeah, well, because I'm 6'4", about 225 pounds. So people, I'm a basketball player. I get that all the time.
Well,
play basketball.
I was like principal to school, and I was out on the playground, and I had just newly been assigned to that school.
Yeah.
And the parent came up to me like after maybe a couple of months into the school year. It might have even been 3. And she says, you know what? I have to apologize to you. And I was looking at her like, for what? We haven't even interacted. You haven't done anything. What are you apologizing for? She says, all this time I would see you on the playground. I thought you were the big black security guard. I didn't know you were the principal.
Yeah.
But people did see again. This is back to that race thing again, because people are not associating us with those fields.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
Yeah,
because I'm constantly juxtaposing things against each other. People associate us with exactly what we're seeing in the news. They associate us with being on the streets getting shot.
Yeah.
They don't associate us with being in the boardrooms and the medical rooms and the doctor's offices, so forth and so on. But the truth of the matter, again, even though the percentage is small, we are there. So when did you decide that you wanted to put this down in book form?
I think I've been writing for a couple of years, and what kind of initially sparked everything and made me work a little bit harder to put it together is when I was on my interviews. I was actually at Harvard and sitting in front of a desk, and I looked around. I was like, wow, this is Harvard. I can't believe I'm sitting in front of this prestigious surgeon's desk. And he, on my interview paper, he had the words, big letters, wow. And our whole interview, he was just blown away by everything that I've been through. So after that point, I didn't go ahead and finish putting this together, and that's what kind of sparked it along the way.
Now, do you travel the country going around to speak to kids, or do you kind of stay local, or how does that kind of work?
Yeah, mostly local,
Okay.
like San Antonio, Louisiana. I get a lot of requests for like commencement speaking. I actually have a couple of those scheduled coming up, but my schedule is extremely busy, so I'm not able to do much.
Right.
I'd like to do a lot more. I'm still in my training stage. I have a few more years before I'm a fully certified surgeon, but I think once that happens, I'm going to try to adjust my schedule so I can do that and also operate as much as I like.
So now your book is available, like say, for example, in bulk order. If do schools order your book to give to students?
Yeah, and I actually spoke with a principal last night, and in Louisiana, they're very excited to have me come out there, and I'm working on a teacher's guide to get into the classroom to the students so they can read it as a project and they can answer some questions, and I'll try to call in and surprise them at the end. Hopefully, we'll try to do that, fit that in my schedule.
Well, I know one of the things, because I do the show. The show's been on, this is the 13th season, 13th year's been on the air. And when I originally started, thank you. When I originally started, one of the hours I was in for a long time was Friday mornings from 6 o'clock to 7:30.
Okay.
And in some cases, my guests would come live into the studio, and I would ask them, what are you doing after the show? And they say, oh, nothing, I'm going to go to breakfast, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. I said, well, do me a favor for a couple of minutes, stop by my school, and let the kids meet you. And I'm saying this because the kids would flip out when they actually saw, like if I would hold up the book, and like I see you have your picture on the back of the book.
Yeah.
If I would hold the book up and then you actually walked in the door, they would freak. Kids that you figure kids don't like reading. They're always talking they don't like to read. Whenever an author would come in, they would lose their minds. And I was happy about it myself. But in terms of you would think kids that are always talking about I don't like to read could care less about an author, and it's not true because they see the author as a rock star. Like that's you on it, that's you. So I'm quite sure whenever you go out to your various schools that they probably look like the same experience. They probably lose their mind. That's you on the cover, that's you on the back. Wow, this is your story. How has it been received by the kids? Do you feel like they're getting it? Because it's like I was talking to a group of kids last night at my wife's church. We were talking about this whole thing going on with African American males in our area, in our immediate area. We've had rapes on college campuses. And so we were talking to the kids about that. And, of course, there's various speakers, one after the other. And the kids are sitting there. And I asked them when I started my presentation, how many of you ever watched Charlie Brown? And they all raised their hand. I said, well, how are the kids with Charlie Brown's teacher? And they were all able to go, wah, 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 wah. And I said, well, I hope what all of us are saying to you right now is not coming across like wah, 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 wah. So how are the kids, whenever you're telling your story, are they receptive to it? Do you feel like they're getting it?
Yeah, exactly. My whole focus is to go back into the inner cities, kind of like Shreveport, like your surrounding area, New Jersey, and because they can relate to it. The things that they're going through, I went through those things. My little brother, he served juvenile life for armed robbery. My mom my whole life has been in and out of prison. My dad did time in prison. My sister did 3 years in prison. So people can relate to that, and they look around their family and their community. They may not see someone who they can look up to. So I try to. That's why it kind of motivates me to, so they can look up to me and be a role model to them and inspire them.
No question. Now, me and Charles Barkley, we don't line up much. I mean, I haven't read his latest commentary about the whole Ferguson thing, but I'll have to go back. But I do know he kind of thought the Ferguson verdict was correct, and I somewhat kind of sort of, in a weird way, kind of understand where he's coming from. I just have to read the actual comments to see what he said. But where I do not line up with Charles Barkley at all, whenever he made the statement that I am not a role model. And the truth of the matter, we're all role models.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether we state that or whether we profess that or not, the truth of the matter is the kids are watching. And they do make up in their minds, and they may not tell you, but they do make up in their minds who they want to be like. And so for years ago when Barkley made that commentary, I said, he's really off base on that one. In terms of, because you are a role model. You're in the media, you're in the basketball, kids looking up to you, whether you want to be that or not, whether you want to accept that or not, that's up to you. But the truth of the matter is you are a role model. And all of us are, good or bad. Even our brothers and sisters, our drug dealers, our prostitutes on the street, they're role models as well. They're playing a role. And what they're doing is modeling, and the kids are making decisions, and I can't imagine anyone, but some people, the drug dealing thing, many of them do say, because they'll come to Mr. Medley, I can make more in a week doing that than you do in a year.
Yeah. Someone told me that recently when I went back to Louisiana. He was like, why would I go to school if I can make $15,000 in a day?
Right.
Yeah, this was a couple weeks ago, actually.
Yeah, that's because that's what, so some of them do make that act of trouble. But my point is, even they are role modeling. They are role modeling because the kids will tell you, as I just said, straight up, I can make more in a week. Like you just said, 15 grand in a day.
Yeah.
It takes me a couple months to make 15 grand.
Yeah.
But everyone is role modeling. So the fact, like you just said now, so when you say overcoming the odds, you really mean overcoming the odds. I mean, this is just not like a little cute catchphrase for you.
Yeah, and something everyone can relate to. No matter if you're 60 years old or you're 18. It's some challenges in life. Every day you're going to be faced with something. I'm constantly dealing with the same thing. So I think it's a great book for everyone.
So what, and I don't know if you can answer this now, maybe you can. Because, again, we are pigeonholed into one kind of little corner as to the expected behavior of black men.
Yeah.
What made you different? And when I say that, I don't mean from the standpoint, because many times I got told, oh, you're not like them. Yes, I am like them. So I'm not asking it from that perspective, but I guess where I'm coming from is what gave you the drive in spite of to go on? Because, again, I've worked in corporate America. I worked for, at one point, the largest telecommunications company in the world at that time. And many of my colleagues were very frank with me, and they would tell me straight up, you came from where? I said, Patterson. Yeah. And you're working here? Yes, I am. Oh, well, then you're not like them. And I would be very clear, yes, I am like them.
Yeah.
But there are some differences. There were some things that occurred that allowed me to do what I'm doing. So that's where I'm coming from with that question. Like, what gave you that drive, even after failures, to keep going?
I think I get that question a lot, but I think everything in life happens for a reason. The things that I've went through and things that I saw and the environment that I was raised up in, I believe God put me in that situation for a reason, and I think that's what makes me work a little bit harder so I can let others know you can make it out of that type of environment, just like the Patterson, your type of environment. It is quite possible to do that. So I get asked that question a lot, and I'm still kind of sometimes at work I just shake my head. I can't believe I'm in the position where I am, but I'm just very grateful and I'm blessed, and I thank God for that every day.
Well, I applaud you because not only do you realize, all right, I'm blessed and it happened for me, but I need to pull somebody out, because that's another fault or another flaw too many of us have. Not everybody, but that is once we get to wherever we think arrived is, we forget about everybody else coming behind us.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, well, you know what? I got there. I pulled myself up by my own bootstraps. You do the same. No. First off, nobody's a self-made man or woman. That's the first thing. Secondly, everybody had to rely on somebody to get where they're going one way or the other. I mean, it really is. Everybody has to depend on each other. So for anybody to get to the point where they feel like they did it all by themselves and they don't have to help anybody else, they're fools.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're now saying, you know what, I am where I am. I've gone through that, and now I'm reaching back to share with the students how they too, because for some people, it is just a matter of saying, wow, you went through that and you were able to do that. That's the spark for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, Dr. Webb, we had the kids start going around talking, I'll go home, like, you know, my teacher brought this man into our school today, Dr. Webb, and he's been through some of the same stuff I'm going through. That might be the spark for them. You know what, I'm going to be this when I grow up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the reason why I work so hard. And everyone asks me, how can you do all this and be a surgeon and an author? I think if you want something, you're passionate about something so much, you'll make time for it.
No question.
I just cut out a lot of things that other people do. I just don't do it. But to make time for, what I'm passionate about.
Well, like I said earlier, to get these things done, you're not sitting there like a couch potato. You're not just sitting there flipping channels through cable.
Yeah.
No question. Because, I mean, to me, TV is one of the biggest time wasters going if you don't use it wisely. You're not just sitting there surfing the internet for the sake of surfing the internet, just idly letting time go. Because we all have the same 24 hours in each day.
Exactly.
The question is, how do you use your 24?
Yeah.
And so you can use it foolishly or you can use it wisely. And most people who are successful, they use their 24 wisely. So we're down to the last 5 minutes or so of the interview. And at this point, I give you the opportunity to promote as much as you want, any book signings, where the book can be purchased, your websites. Is it downloadable? I hope it is, because that's usually how I've been doing my books lately. Mm-hmm. But you could say anything with the exception of the cost. Okay. So this is your chance to promote Overcoming the Odds.
Okay. Yeah, Overcoming the Odds, from war on the streets in Louisiana to war on terrorism in Iraq. How I successfully overcame the odds. It's available on Amazon.com at Amazon.com/author/Antonio Webb, MD. You just search in the search bar my name, Antonio Webb, and Overcome the Odds. The book will come up. It's available on Kindle for downloads. It's also available at my website, Antonio Webb, MD.com. And I'm currently working on my second book. It's called My Other Friends, which in the process now. And soon to Barnes & Noble's, Books A Million, and about 20 other retail stores in the next coming weeks. So really excited about that.
Well, I tell you what, I can promise you this. Before today is out, I will have my Kindle version, my downloaded version on there.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And I will,
no, I can promise you that for a few reasons. One, for support.
Yeah.
Just to support your efforts, because I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy to see what I'm seeing and hearing what I'm hearing. So if nothing else but to support your cause, and that's one more book sold, there's no question before the day's end. Matter of fact, before noon, I will have downloaded a copy of Overcoming the Odds from War on the Streets. And I just wish you absolutely nothing the best. You said your second book has, what is it, My Other Friends?
Yeah, it's about the transition and things I saw and what I learned from growing up in Louisiana, and then from Georgetown. Those are two completely different worlds.
Oh, yeah.
I had to change a lot of things from those two environments, so I wanted to speak on that.
Yeah, I thought where you were, and I think you are going there. I think you said it. Maybe because when I heard you say about My Other Friends, there's this whole thing of, like the birds of a feather flock together. The whole thing of the company you choose, kind of, we can determine, where you're going, what you're going to be based on the company you choose, and those kind of things. No question, all those things apply. Again, keep doing what you're doing. God bless you. You will be in my prayers because, again, first off, we need more of us who are doctors. That's the first thing. And then when you start getting into the percentages of the type of doctoring, if for lack of a better word, like your field that you specialize in.
Yeah.
The more odd the field or specialized the field, let me put it that way, the lower the percentage gets.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you start talking orthopedic, now you're talking 4% of doctors, but you're probably talking point something
Yeah, it's
in
very low. I'm not
orthopedic.
sure.
Right.
I
I
looked
mean,
it
it's
up.
the same thing when you get into other specializations, and we need more of us there. And it's not that we can't do it. We need to make the decisions and the choices to do it.
Yeah.
And it is going to require work. It will require work. But for African Americans, we're not a stranger to work. Historically.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So with that being said, Antonio, I wish you absolutely nothing but the best. The book title is Overcoming the Odds, From War on the Streets of Louisiana to the War on Terrorism in Iraq, How I Successfully Overcame the Odds. The author is Antonio Webb, M.D. Again, if you look up the book, you'll see his picture on there. Big letters, Overcoming the Odds. His website is AntonioWebbMD.com. I invite you to go there. I invite you to purchase the books, whether you download it, whether you run off to your local bookstore, whether you order it in the mail. However you do it, I encourage you to do it. It is a book for your children. I'm looking through his site here, and he has one wrapped up for the holidays. And anybody that knows me knows that when I give gifts, generally I give a book.
Oh, maybe
they usually, they almost have come, right. They've almost come to expect that, oh, Lord, if I'm getting a gift from Mark, it's a book.
Yeah.
But that is, so I'm saying all that to say, listening audience, it is that time of year where we are giving, and you're going to run out here and spend all this money on all this electronic equipment when a good old-fashioned book may do more for that child, or that grown-up for that matter, than any of that. And a story like this, it could change someone's life. So with that being said, Antonio, again, thank you for joining me this morning as a doctor, as a resident, as a how do you enter? What are the various? Let's see. I'm looking here. I'm trying to get like you go through your residencies, through. So I mean, where I'm going is I know being up this early in the morning is not a stranger for you because you all get called on at all different hours.
Yeah, I just got to the hospital before I called you, so I'm about to get some work done.
All right, see that's what I'm saying. I know you all work all these like out of the whack hours for those that like to sleep straight through the night.
Yeah. It's good for traffic in the morning. Nobody's on the streets.
That's right. Well, I wish you nothing but the best, but we will be in touch. I always do this disclaimer with folks. If all the equipment, the recording equipment and everything worked like it was supposed to, I do archive the show. It'll come through like a YouTube feed, and I send that out to all my social media sites that folks get an opportunity to hear it. I would prefer folks to hear it live, but you know what? If they just can't get up this early in the morning, I do provide a way for them to hear it later, and this one is needed to be heard. So I'll be glad to distribute that one. You'll get a copy of it as well.
Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you. Take care now.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.